And then when Sabrina came along, yeah, I got to be the boss. And my mom was the real boss, though. Like I was second fiddle to my mom for sure, because she was the one hiring and firing, choosing the. But if I said I want to meet the Violent Femmes, or I want Blondie on the show, Blondie was on the show, Violent Femmes were on the show. That's the power of being the executive producer, is like getting to work with the people you love, getting a little creative influence, having people take your voice seriously. And I got that on Sabrina. I got that at 20 years old. And that show afforded me to buy my first house at 21. And that was, for me, so golden growing up the way I grew up. I feel like I held on to that. I know how special that was. I know how blessed I am to have had those opportunities. But, you know, and a lot of that comes with executive producing, but I wouldn't have executive produced without my mom. Like, I know it's really, you know, the show wouldn't have, I don't think, gotten sold without me, but it would never have happened without her.
Living in the spotlight is no vacation. Stars getting older in a life of entertainment. You have to grow and save your dough to bask in the glory. Young stars now adults sharing their stories. After your name in the Hollywood shadows, shine away from the laughter. And the year without years ago, yes I know, but I'm still on the go. Did you know? Still hanging around, playing the game, still throwing it down. Yeah, the mood is right, show us how it's done. Let's have some fun. Ever after. If you fall off your chair, just say, did I do that?
Hey, it's Jaleel. Now I want to tell you about my new favorite plant-based protein bar. It's Loopy, L-U-P-I-I, 2 I's, made from the lupini bean, which has 3 times the protein of eggs, 2 times the protein of chickpeas, and 3 times more fiber than oats. Loopy bars are protein-rich, vegan, sustainable, plant-based fuel that will keep you running like a boss all day. Now, for me, I use these as a post-workout pick-me-up because I need that at my age, you know what I'm saying? A little something to get me going. Makes the perfect snack. These nutty, fruity bars will fill you up and keep you going all day. Vegan, non-GMO, gluten-free, no sugar added. That part is important because I'm addicted to sugar. Kosher, and would you believe me if I told you that they really do taste great? I'm serious. Loopy bars come in 4 delicious flavors. Peanut butter cacao, almond butter cinnamon raisin, that's my favorite, tahini lemon cranberry, and new cashew ginger pumpkin seed. I'm gonna have to jump on that because I feel these holidays coming around. I prefer the almond butter myself, though. The almond butter cinnamon is my joint. Right now, Loopy is offering 20% off your first online order at GetLoopy, that's 2 I's, getloopy.com. Use the code EVER at checkout to get free shipping on all orders. That's Loopy, L-U-P-I-I, 2 I's. Visit getloopy.com/ever. Don't forget those slashes because you want your discount.
If I said, I want to meet the Violent Femmes, or I want Blondie on the show, Blondie was on the show, Violent Femmes were on the show. I had a crush on one of the monkeys. Davy Jones came on the show. You know, it was like, that's the power of being the executive producer, is like getting to work with the people you love, getting a little creative influence, having people take your voice seriously. And I got that on Sabrina. I got that at 20 years old. And that show afforded me to buy my first house at 21.
Stars getting older in a life of entertainment. You have to grow and save your dough to bask in the glory. Young stars now adults sharing their stories. Ever after. If you fall off your chair, just say, did I do that?
Stereotypes about child stars and their longevity in Hollywood are well known. We've all heard the same stories, but contrary to popular belief, there's a greater number of child actors who beat the odds, and we continue to work in our careers in show business just fine. I'm Jaleel White, and this is Ever After. All right, I'm really excited about my guest today. She did 25 national commercials before the age of 5. She started on Broadway by the age of 4. I'll get right to her main credits because her IMDb just goes on and on and on. Clarissa Explains It All was her big launch to fame on Nickelodeon. Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Can't wait to talk about that. Drive Me Crazy, the movie. Melissa Explains It All. Let's see. No, That's what was your next credit? Your next credit was Melissa and Joey. Melissa and Joey from 2010 to 2015. Now she's giggling, so you know who I'm talking about. And my daughter has loved her in No Good Nick for Netflix. She's also a terrific director, and I've worked for her in a terrific Lifetime movie called SantaCon. Melissa Joan Hart, everybody. Melissa Joan Hart.
Hi.
How you doing?
How are you? What's up, Jaleel? I'm good.
I'm Zooming like everybody else, baby. We on this Zoom.
Right?
Our kids are learning on Zoom. We're working on Zoom. What would our lives be without Zoom?
Zoom's raking it in during Corona. I know. Right? They're like the lucky ones, right?
How did Skype lose the battle? Like,
I know. I don't understand how our kids are using like Google Classroom, but not actually using it for online. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
It's
but Zoom is killing it, man. That's going to be between toilet paper and Zoom. That's what we'll remember 2024.
Oh my gosh. Don't get me started with toilet paper. Come on, be honest. How much did you grab?
You know, it's funny. As the lockdown was supposed to happen, I grabbed an extra, like probably 20 pack or something because I had some guests supposed to come into town. And so I stocked up and then it was gone for months. And I was like, thank God I did that.
So one of the things that we have in common is you and I both worked with the infamous now, Mr. Bill Cosby.
Yes.
I did a Jell-O pudding commercial and you did a Jell-O pudding commercial. What was your experience?
I did. Do you think was it the same one? No?
I don't think it was the same one.
Know.
That would be absolutely scary. Which one was yours?
Well, all I remember, it was like 4 directors' chairs in a kind of a little circle. And he was in one and there was like me and I want to say 2 or 3 other kids. But he kept firing the kids like crazy. Like if someone was like, I'm getting a bellyache, get him out. You know, there were about 25 children waiting to be in there. But to like, you know, in the backup. And I didn't know what they were there for. My sister was one of them. And I remember she was sitting in the chair next to him getting her makeup done. And he was getting his makeup. And she's like, hi. And that was our favorite. Cosby Show was our favorite show. And she was like, hi, Mr. Cosby. And he wouldn't even like, he grunted and like didn't like say hi to her. My mom was horrified that this is like the man we look up to, the father of America. And he, didn't say hi to my sister, who was only like 6 at the time, by the way.
Oh, that's so low.
Yeah, I remember sitting in the chair and watching him fire child after child after child. Like one was like, I don't like vanilla pudding. Get him out of here. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to sit here, keep my mouth shut, eat my pudding and just smile. Like I've never tasted anything so good. And I was the only one that kept my job. Everyone else got fired.
So you knew how to be political even back then. I love it. Oh my God. I know he told my mom to hurry up when she wanted to take a picture.
Oh.
So he told my mom, you don't keep stars waiting. Hurry up. He was.
Meanwhile, that's back in the day when you had to roll the film. Cranking it like.
You had to use like an actual camera, and she had been told to wait all day for this one moment, and was just nervous. He was freaking Bill Cosby.
I mean, he's the biggest guy. Yeah, he was like the biggest star, and everybody's homes. Everyone felt like they knew him, and yeah, it's what a turn, huh?
We know, you and I know that meeting your heroes can sometimes just not go the way you thought in your brain. And that's just, and it's kind of common for us. So we almost kind of shrug it off at this point. I mean, even hearing you talk about it, you're like, yeah, nah, he didn't say hi to my sister. It is what it is.
Yeah.
We've had a good career since. But the average person is like seriously traumatized when they come across somebody they've admired so much and they have to discover, I'm sorry to tell you, but he's a dick.
Yeah. No, seriously. Yeah, no, it's funny. There are some times though when like I got to meet at a Comic-Con recently. Years ago I met John Travolta, and then I saw him again at a Comic-Con last year. But I really embarrassed myself in front of him. He was nice as could be with like the dreamiest eyes, and it was everything I could have wished for. But I just kind of said something stupid to him and ran away, and
what'd you say?
Just embarrassed myself. Well, like there was the 20th anniversary, I think it was, or maybe 30. No, it must have been the 20th anniversary of Grease.
Okay.
And I had just gone. They were having a big party at Paramount. And I had gone to the party, and me and my friends dressed up, and we were there, and we were hoping to see him, but we found out he wasn't going to be there.
Okay.
And so it was like 2 weeks later that I suddenly run into him, And Henry Winkler brings me over to meet him and is like, Henry, this is my friend, or John, this is my friend Melissa. And he's like, hi, Melissa, nice to meet you. Just dreamiest eyes. I melted. And I went, I was at the Grease thing a few weeks ago and I was hoping to see you and I saw you there and I didn't get to say hi. And he's like, no, I wasn't there. And I said, I know you weren't there. I know you weren't there. I mean, I wanted you to be there. You weren't there. Hi, Kelly. Nice to meet you. And I turned around and I ran. And I was just like, what is wrong with me that I mean, this is my dream guy all of my childhood. So it was just, one of those moments. A little different than the Bill Cosby incident.
So John Travolta discombobulated you more than any star you've ever met.
Him and strangely Oliver Hudson.
Ooh, that's random. Okay.
I don't know what it was. I used to go out to clubs and see Ollie out, and I just had such a thing for him. And I just go find him on the dance floor thinking I had something witty to say, and I just kind of like murmur something like didn't even and turn and run. It was like the weirdest thing. Yeah, Oliver Hudson and John Travolta.
I love how random the names are, though, because it's just none of these stories ever have the names that you think they're going to have. Mm-mm. And we're normal like anybody else. I remember I went to a Starlight Foundation dinner in the early 90s, and they sat me next to Janet Jackson, who was just like, at that time especially, was like they sat me right next to Janet Jackson and her husband. And I remember even when our plate of food came, and I'm just ready to dig in my chicken. And I'm like, oh, you're not hungry? And she's like, oh, no, I don't eat animals. And it was just like, I was done. I was done eating. I couldn't touch. My appetite just went right out my ass. Out my ass. I wasn't about to sit here and eat an animal in front of Janet Jackson.
In front of her. Right? I know, right? Yeah, that nothing more awkward.
Right?
Yeah.
This woman had like the most perfect belly button on an album cover I'd ever seen. I was not good at
Oh my gosh, I had that poster. That poster hung on the ceiling in my bedroom.
We all had it, right?
Yeah.
All right, I got to keep digging into the early part of our careers and how we crossed paths. You auditioned for Blossom. Wow.
Yes.
Do you remember it? Talk to me about it.
I just remember at night, I was auditioning simultaneously for Blossom and for my first show, Clarissa Explains It All. And at the time, Nickelodeon had Double Dare and a few other kids shows. It had You Can't Do That in Television, which was the only one that I thought was like a cool, not kids show. Right. But I loved watching Nickelodeon. But at the same time, I was like, well, I don't want to be on a kids network. But also I was auditioning for Blossom. And I don't know, I don't recall if I actually auditioned for the role of Blossom, but I auditioned for 6 numerous times. And Clarissa kind of sometimes on the same day, I think I went on like a second and a third callback. And wow. Yeah. And I remember like at night praying over them being like, God, what should I do? Like, which one would be better for me? Like to be the star of my own show or to be like a character on another show where the other girl's the star, but it's on a network and, I have to move to LA or, and I just remember like being kind of torn over like what the decision, as if I got to make the decision, but also just praying like that the best path would open up for me. And then sure enough, I got Clarissa, which I think was a great thing. But Jenna and I are good friends and I adore her, and I don't think I would have been as nearly as funny or fast paced as her.
I think all of us, once somebody embodies a role, you just can't imagine anybody else in that role. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
true. Yeah.
It's like all of our blessings are, what's meant for you is meant for you, and so exactly. It's only fun really to tell these stories to people who are either newbies to the business or just curious about the business so that they fully understand, the journey of being considered that we've lived. Yeah. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's the thing that people always think about actors is like, we're so egotistical or there's so much bravado or so confident. And a lot of the time it's actually the opposite because we go through so much rejection. Ooh. You have to put on kind of an armor yes. to protect yourself when you go through so much rejection. As a kid, maybe it rolls off your back a little easier. Depends on the kind of kid you are. For me, it was like, I don't care. I'm going to Girl Scouts later. Or I'm going to dance class or, if I didn't get a part, I didn't necessarily always care. It was right around that time when you become a teenager and you kind of learn about humility and you realize what you're doing, that you get a little bit more like, maybe I do want this part, or maybe I don't want to embarrass myself and say that lifesavers are the yummiest thing on earth, or, and I feel like people always think that actors just are full of themselves, but really I think there's a lot of like brokenness that comes. And that's why some of us come out of it okay. And some of us have a hard time, I think, with, with that rejection and with that. And you think that just because you get a TV show on the air, that you're going to be okay, that you're set for life, that you've got everything you want, you play this epic character or whatever. And really it's like, there's a huge downswing after that of trying to recreate yourself and trying to come back from that. And I mean, I guess we can get into that later, but it's like, do you want to be a working actor and just keep going and pushing through and getting the jobs you can get? Or does it always have to be taking it to the next level? Because a lot of the time that doesn't always happen.
Well, what's interesting about you, and I have to bring up your mom, because your mom is just a boss. Obviously I worked for you on the SantaCon, but your mom had an awareness that a lot of parents don't have about guiding your career. And it's like, I have to say something that she did. Your mom bought the rights to Sabrina the Teenage Witch from Archie Comics, and she bought it for $1. So again, you can tell me about that negotiation. She bought it for $1 back then, when that was the savviest thing in the world to do. And then also, how did she know though to turn it into a movie first, so that the success of the movie would attract ABC? Like, explain that, because for a mother to have known all that, that makes your mom a boss forever in my mind.
Well, she paid attention to the business. She was not in the business when I started. I wanted to be on Romper Room. I wanted my name set in the Magic Mirror. I don't know if you remember that show where Miss Marianne held the Magic Mirror. And at the end of the show, she'd say people's names, but Melissa wasn't a popular name. She would never say my name. And I put together the formula of, she's saying the names of the kids that are on the floor in front of her. I got to get on that show. So she'll say Melissa. So I told my mom, turned to my mom.
Melissa, how old
I was like 4. Turned to my mom, I'm like, I want to be in TV. She called a friend who had a daughter who was auditioning for stuff. And she said, how do I get Melissa into it? I went on my first audition, booked it. Third audition, booked it. Fifth audition, booked it. And all of a sudden I was, acting. So my mom was managing my career. She became a casting director because so many people kept coming to her saying, how do I get my kid involved? How do I get my kid involved? She became a manager. She became a casting director. And then with Sabrina, after Clarissa was over, because she was my manager, she's fielding all these calls. We want Melissa to play a lesbian on this show with blah, 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 or this, this, we want her to play a kind of a streetwalker and do that. And my mom's like, she's 16. No, we're not, like, I'm not going to let her do that right now. Like, she just didn't like the opportunities that came, and knowing that Clarissa had this kind of childhood, a lot of kids were watching the show. She's like, I'm not going to let her just go do Lolita now because, we got to segue to something else. So she found the comic book from Archie and she went to them, and basically they said, you can take it. Give us $1. We'll do the exchange. So the $1 was like, that's the minimum you had to give to just say there was a money exchange and there was a rights given. And we had the rights, I think, for 6 months. She brought it right to Viacom. They sold it to Showtime as a movie. And that was the first thing we were going to do, was make the TV movie. And then she kept saying, as we were in production, this would be a great series. This would be a great series. And they kept saying, whatever. But when she went in the editing room, she loves post. I hate post. She went in the editing room and she was she cut together a trailer for a TV series.
Your mom cut together
the trailer. So she flew. She cut together the trailer. She's like, pull that, put this together, put music over it. And she came home to our apartment in New York City and was like, I'm going to go to LA and pitch this to some networks. And she flew and I was like, good luck, like kind of like never going to happen. And she jumped on a plane and went to 5 different networks. And she got 3 offers in the room. She got offer from, I think, I don't know if it was WB at the time, but she got an offer from ABC. She got a full like 24 or 26 episode offer from one of the networks. She got an offer from, I want to say, NBC. And then she got an offer from ABC, but it would be on TGIF. It would only be 12 episodes, but it'd be on TGIF. And she went with the time slot. And then ever since then, she's been producing all of our TV movies, all of our, now we do the Lifetime Christmas movies, and she produced Melissa and Joey, and we have another one we're developing right now.
You had an interesting dynamic because you have a sibling, and Liz was an actress too.
I have I'm the oldest of 8. And Lizzie, Lizzie.
So I didn't want to, I don't know how much you want me to put out there. I was only going to talk about Liz, but you're a part of a litter. Really, you're part of a litter.
Yeah,
and
I am the oldest.
When you were doing
first.
Clarissa, right? When you were doing Clarissa, though, your parents created this kind of like this I don't know how to say it. Like you had a guardianship down in Orlando and they would like trade places watching you guys. Like explain how that worked because I'm an only child.
Yeah.
So my mom really, my mom was a hawk. Like she was just all over me. I couldn't get my mom over, get my mom away from me. She was a cheap suit for me growing up, literally. And like you guys to a certain degree had to balance, you know, like, okay, well, I'm losing a bit of my mom because mom is with Lizzie right now on the cruise doing this show. Like you talk about it. But I found that dynamic to be very interesting when people have siblings and they're pursuing a career in show business.
That's funny you say that because I guess I never really thought about that really. I mean, people ask why I don't want my kids in the business. It's mainly because I don't want to drive them around to auditions and have to help them memorize stuff and force them to wear clothes and go to the audition. But she, you know, we were driving probably 2-3 times a week in New York City, which is about 2 hours from our home. So 2 hours there, 2 hours back. Got really involved in theater when I was about 10, I think. I was the youngest member of the Circle Repertory Company, but I couldn't sing. So I was doing plays, but not musical theater. My one sister, Lizzie, could sing. So Lizzie got involved, and then my younger sister, Emily, too, who's 10 years younger than me. The two of them did a lot of musical theater. Lizzie, you know, often auditioned or was friends with the people in Les Mis, or we would constantly go see plays because we lived in New York City. And so she was constantly like in that childhood, the musical theater kids world, like the Lacey Chaberts and Laura Bell Bundy and some of these kids that were big musical theater kids. And she did the Sound of Music at Lincoln Center at the same time as I was doing a play downtown. And then
that's big.
She booked a show on a cruise ship. So she had to go on a cruise ship for 13 weeks and perform, I think, Sound of Music and some other musical numbers. So my mom, of course, chose the better of the two between, being at Universal Studios Orlando or being on a cruise ship. My mom went for 13 weeks with my sister on a cruise ship, took the baby with her, Emily, who later on became a musical theater girl too. And Trisha and my brother stayed at home with my dad. And Trisha pretty much ran the house at the age of 12. She was paying the bills. She learned how to sign checks. She learned how to get my brother up and ready for school. Yeah. So she was fully taking care of my like 6-year-old brother while she's like 12. And then, and I was in Orlando and a lot of the time mainly with guardians. So, but that was over 4 years. I had 4 different guardians. And so, yeah, I was in Orlando and I was kind of sheltered from, I feel like, you know, I was friends with a lot of the like New York City audition crew, right? Like the Soleil Moon Frye I would run into sometimes, not necessarily that she was always in New York, but it was like Sarah Michelle Gellar and Tara Reid was out there and Lacey Chabert and the whole Chabert family. And, you know, you meet a lot of people that became child stars because you're in the same audition circles as Joey Lawrence. Like I would constantly audition with Joey. And so, so I was kind of sheltered from like the Hollywood lifestyle because I feel like I was in New York. There's a lot more theater, a lot more commercials, maybe some soap opera work, that kind of thing. But then I went to Orlando for 4 years and did my show in Orlando. So I wasn't walking red carpets or going to big events or parties, having stylists or anything like that. So I was really kind of sheltered from that sort of life until I did Sabrina when I was 20. And that's the first time I really lived in LA. That's when I, you know, got a fancy car and, you know, I started going to red carpet events and premieres and like the first time I ever did any of that.
I think
I don't know if I answered your question. Was that even about your question?
I don't know if it did.
About my parents.
My question, because I was really talking more about the
dynamic of my family.
The dynamic of are your siblings? Are you guys aware of how much of the sacrifices you made for each
balance.
Other? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like you guys you guys had to make conscious sacrifices for each other. Like, yo, Lizzie needs mom right now. I need mom right now. And it's like, you know, how has that affected your dynamic with your siblings? I guess,
well, you know, until I was like 12, I feel like I very much led a normal life, even though I was working constantly. It was like commercials. It was like a day here and 2 days there. Maybe one time I went off to Vancouver and did a movie for a few weeks and my mom and my brother came with me. My brother was a baby. Actually went to Mississippi and shot a movie with Drew Barrymore and my mom and my brother came with me there. So we would kind of split up, but a lot of the time I got my mom until Clarissa, which Clarissa really started when I was like 13, 14. So I guess it was right around the time you don't want your mom dropping you off and going, So, there were things I had to learn to do on my own, like, I had to learn to set an alarm and wake up and figure out, do I need to wash my hair today? Do I need to shave my legs today? What do I need to do to be ready for work? What time do I need to go to bed? And, what kind of food should I be eating? As opposed to having mom do it all for me. Up until then, she probably picked up my clothes. But, my sister Trisha really lacked in having our parents around. She really had to pick up a lot of the slack. She would audition with me all the time. We were very similar, same height, same kind of, we were both blonde, blue-eyed kids that would go on a lot of the auditions, but she was a little shy and I was really out there. I was really extrovert and we were willing to ham it up. And so I would get the jobs a lot. And I think it really hurt her for a long time until she finally discovered, it became that I was the funny one. She was the smart one. And then Lizzie was the singer. Everyone kind of fell into their own little category that made them feel like they had something to give. And, but Trisha still, I think holds a little stuff about, the fact that my mom wasn't really around for her much, or she had to pick up, help with the family so much. Right. And I had a lot of that with monetarily had to help out with the family a lot. And not that I minded that, because what would I do with my money anyway at the age of 10? If I did a commercial, I got a Barbie doll. Or one time my dad challenged me. He said, if you get 2 national commercials, I'll build you. I said, Dad, I want a clubhouse. When will you build me a club? He was a construction worker. Yeah. When will you build me a clubhouse? He was like, when you get 2 national commercials.
Oh,
1 month
that's
later,
so hilarious.
2 national commercials.
I love that. I love that about, we have that in common. That you said that you didn't know how much money you made from your commercials or anything. And my parents did the exact same thing, actually. I didn't want to go on auditions anymore because I love sports more. And so I was starting to have to leave practice and stuff like that to go on these auditions that I wasn't booking. So I was just like, dude, I'm done acting. But my mom knew how much money that I was really stacking up to go to college. And she was like, Jaleel should really keep acting, even if it's just every now and then. So my dad came up with the formula of telling me, anytime you book a job, you can get whatever you want. He didn't even word it any different. He was like, whatever you want. And it's like, what? What do you mean, whatever I want? And it's like, if you think about the genius of that, when you're 13 years old or you're 12 years old, you don't know what the hell to ask for. You just want something that's on a really high shelf, right? And it probably cost about $200, $300 back then at Toys R Us. Exactly.
Oh, I got an $18 Barbie doll. And I was or I got a strawberry shortcake. So and I'm a collector too. So it was perfect for me to be oh, I need another Shirley Temple, or a strawberry shortcake, or I need another Care Bear, or I want to, one time, because we were going into the city, a lot of the time my auditions were based on what we would get to do. If we had a break in between, we could go to the Central Park Zoo, or we could go to the Cabbage Patch. I don't know if you remember this, but on Fifth Avenue, they had a real Cabbage Patch store with a real Cabbage Patch. So you could get the doll. That, yes. They'd birth the doll out of the cabbage, and you get the doll, and you get to name it, and you go to the adoption room, and you sign the papers and adopt. So one time I actually got to adopt a real Cabbage Patch doll because I was in the city for an audition. Or we get to go to the top of the Empire State Building, or today we'll go get your favorite little donut at that shop that you like, or that kind of thing. So a lot of times those were my little.
Food was big. Just even going to McDonald's after an audition was a big deal.
McDonald's was a huge
treat. That was huge treat.
So true. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, I love it. Hey folks, Jaleel here. This episode is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community where millions come together to take the next step in their creative journey, with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people on topics including illustration, design, photography, video, freelancing, and more. Now, when I learned about Skillshare, I knew I had to use it to step up my photography game. My girlfriend was always telling me that she hates my photos that I take of her on her iPhone. This is a huge conundrum for boyfriends everywhere. But I use Skillshare to learn a bit about photography, and now I'm the only one that can take her pictures. Skillshare offers membership and meaning. With so much to explore, real projects to create, and the support of fellow creatives, Skillshare empowers you to accomplish real growth. Explore your creativity at Skillshare.com/ever. And the first 1,000 people to use our link will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. That's Skillshare.com/ever. Today's audiences require compelling video storytelling to win their attention. But the creative process can still be inefficient and demanding for creators. Storyblocks makes it possible for creators to keep up with the growing demands for premium video content, so you can bring all your stories to life and stop sacrificing your vision due to time, budget, or resources. Storyblocks is a stock footage service that offers simple, affordable subscriptions plus unlimited downloads on over 1 million royalty-free video clips, so you can create more video faster, easier, and with no friction. Every creator should have a Storyblocks subscription. Storyblocks features state-of-the-art tools that scale to meet your needs. Browse an ever-expanding library of 1 million plus high-quality stock assets, including 4K HD footage, After Effects, and Premiere Pro templates, music, images, sound effects, and more. Assets are royalty-free, so you can use your downloads anywhere for commercial and personal use. Whether you're an emerging filmmaker or an old media pro, Storyblocks is your key to creation. Visit storyblocks.com/ever for special offers. That's storyblocks.com/ever. Check it out now. This one might be a little personal, but what's it like when you're working that much and you do have to go through divorce? Because my parents got really close to divorce, and not a lot of people know that. And it was. I remember I just started bawling. My dad basically just came into to the room, and I was actually at NATPE. I was there to sell our show, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't think your mother and I are going to be together anymore." And it was just like,
how old were you?
I was probably about at NATPE at that point. I was probably about 14, going on 15 somewhere, because it was right before the show got 100 episodes. And we were at this. If you said the hotel, I'd know the hotel. Like I have such vivid memories of it though. But ultimately they didn't get a divorce because my dad really didn't want to split up the money, and he didn't want any issues with seeing me. And he was such a part of my life. My dad was at every taping. I remember he only did not come to one taping because of an argument. And I'll never forget how I felt because my dad wasn't in my dressing room watching the feed. And, I apologized profusely. But those are just, intimate moments that people don't realize that really take place. And,
what's going on behind the scenes.
I thank him for fighting to keep our family together during those pivotal years. Because it would have been a very different dynamic from age 15 to 21 doing the show if my dad had not been around.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. I was about the same age. I want to say I was 13, and I was doing Clarissa in Orlando. My mom was on the cruise ship with my sister, and the whole family was coming down. I think I had a hiatus. And so I was going down to Miami to get on the cruise ship, and my family from New York, my dad and my sister and brother were going to come down too. And my mom was on the ship with the 2 other sisters. So the 5 kids. So it was one time we were all going to go for a week, and it was our first cruise ever. And my last, by the way, I've never been on one since. And we get on the cruise ship. We're going to get on the cruise ship. My dad shows up, and he wears this shirt that has a bowl with the no sign through it, the red circle around with the slash through it. So the bowl is taking a poop. And it's got the no slash. And she wants to show off her family to her new fancy friends on the cruise ship. And he's wearing a no bullshit shirt. And it just pushed her over the edge. And she just said, "That's it. I'm done." And so we spent a week on a cruise ship knowing they were going to get divorced. And taking our last family photos. Yeah, we were stuck together in 2 or 3 rooms. And my sister and I would go dancing at the club every night and then just basically cry in the room every day. Like, they're not going to be together. And then I had to go back to Orlando, and my family went back to New York, and my mom stayed on the cruise ship. And it was, when I wrapped that season of Clarissa, I remember the wardrobe designer kind of taking me and hugging me and saying, "I don't envy what you have to go back to." And I was like, what do you mean? What am I going back? What am I going back to? And my mom picks me up from the airport and drives me straight into New York City and to an apartment and says, "This is where we live now." And I had no idea what was happening.
Whoa.
And I was like, "I'm sorry, what? Where are my siblings? Where's my clothes? Where's my stuff? Oh, all your stuff will be here tomorrow. I'm going to go pick up the kids tomorrow, but you and I are going to stay here tonight. This is our new apartment." I was like, wait a second. I went into a hole for a few weeks until I realized I love New York. I always hated New York as a kid because I had to go there to work, and I thought it was smelly and gross. But once I kind of got my bearings, I was like, oh, now I have 2 parents to I can go to my dad's for the weekend, and he'll give me money, and I can go to my mom and she'll give me money to ride the train. They don't know how much I got from the other parent. Like, I would start to use them against each other a little bit. And my boyfriend lived on Long Island, but here I was living in the city. And now all of a sudden I was a city girl. I started to really take to the life of like the dual parents. It wasn't easy, but it was, and the hardest part was probably that my mom would come down to Orlando often and tell me, we're very close in age. My mom and I are only like 20 years apart. So she was a pretty young mom, and she told me a few too many things probably about the divorce that I didn't want to know or didn't need to know. Or, I was her best friend, so she was leaning on me a lot. But at the time I was trying to work and memorize 50 pages a week. And, that show, I had monologue after monologue on Clarissa. And so I had to start memorizing on Sunday night to be able to perform, we shot on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We didn't do an audience show. But I had to do monologues on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And I would sometimes have four-page monologues, and I had to do them all straight to camera. There was no cutting. There was no editing. So I would get really serious about those. So I would spend my days in school and working, and then nights just memorizing like crazy. And she'd start telling me about their woes and what's going on in New York. And I'd be like, I don't want to hear it, that kind of thing. So there was, moments like that. But ultimately, like it didn't, I wouldn't say it like created a big problem for me or broke my heart in a really terrible way. I think it was, I think I realized it was like best for, they just weren't, they were very different people. They started off as hippies, but then she became like, she was working her butt off as the mom of 5 and wanted to become a career woman. And he was a fisherman who, and doing construction. And he, just wanted to have a beer at night, and she wanted him to come home and be with the family and help out.
Right.
So,
right. No, I think it's an interesting thing though, that I mean, look, a moment like that in your childhood it's a trauma, whether you're strong enough to overcome it or not. It's technically a trauma. And
that's true.
The crying on the cruise ship and coming to the realizations of, wait, I'm going to have to interact with my parents differently. But it instilled something in you that I think I have also, and sometimes I almost resent that I have it. But it's definitely one of my survival skills, is that the show must go on. Like you talked about memorizing your lines. And that's one of the things that probably has bothered me most, even about working as an adult, is I now hearken back to the days of when I was a kid, like truly a kid. And I got a chance to memorize my lines and things like that with no stress at all. Like at most a spelling test or something on Friday. That's it. Right. But when you're going through parents divorcing or relationship problems, or maybe something financial happened and you've got to kind of like hide that from the world, and you've got all this dialogue, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I've had to do 19 pages on camera, and the same day that I went to family court for my daughter in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's just,
I think you learn to hyper focus in a way. Like
that's
you
it.
learn
Hyper
that,
focus,
to compartmentalize and hyper focus.
And it's like,
you definitely, I mean, this business is not easy. It is not for the faint of heart. It's not, rocket surgery, but it's like, there's a lot of elements to it that are uncomfortable, that are embarrassing, that are, on one hand, you work for like 14 hours. Like I just finished these 3 Lifetime movies, and you work for like 14 hours a day, basically. But, some of that is sitting around. Some of that is getting your hair and makeup ready and then sitting around. And some of it is waiting for the next shot to be set up. Or, if I'm directing, I'm deep in it, but like, in every facet of making the movie. But acting wise, there can be a lot of it's a lot of hurry up and wait, a lot of downtime, but it's also a lot of long hours. It's a lot of like, I've got to be energetic right now, and it's 3:00 in the morning and I'm cold and tired, or I've got to be crying right now, but I'm having a really great hair day, or or the opposite. I'm having a huge fight with my husband, but I have to go pretend that it's Christmas and cookies are really delicious.
Yep. Yep. It's really, I'm telling you, it's an interesting psychological thing to share with people, because most people feel like if I'm going through something, I have a right to break down. And I actually don't feel that way. I feel like if I'm going through something, I got to work even harder now to make sure that does not translate to work at all.
Yeah, you got to manipulate. I mean, in our business, we have to manipulate our emotions, which is not easy and it's not fun. And it's something that it's a reason why a lot of people don't do it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are either not capable of manipulating your own emotions or just don't want to. Like, who wants to, you know, if you're down and you can be like, oh, it's a rainy, yucky day. But if, you know, I'm on Sabrina and I'm like, it's the best day ever. Harvey kissed me. You know, you have to be able to turn it on and turn it off.
Speaking of Sabrina, though, you know, one of the differences between your track and my track was by the time you arrived at Sabrina, you had all of this experience under your belt. And I didn't even realize that with you coming in. You just seemed like, you know, a young girl that had been cast in something. And since you looked younger than you were, I mean, you were a woman. I mean, again, with siblings that were paying your bills at age 12, you were a woman.
Yeah.
And it was just like, talk about what it was to be like you were girl empowerment before girl empowerment existed. And you were a young executive producer. So talk about what it was to be a young female executive producer in Hollywood at that particular time, stand your ground and still go through what it is to be young. I'm going to party. I'm going to this, that, and the other. But you're showing up and you're the executive producer at age 20. I always tell people I've never had my own show. I've been in show business for years. And, you know, the only show that I could say was my own was one season on UPN, but I just don't count that as a real network because of what I endured. So I never, so I've never really technically had my own show that I created that, you know, I sold the conceit and let's go forward. I've always been a guy that was considered and made the best of what I was offered. You and your mom, man, you built a ship with a $1 rights option in Sabrina, and that made you the youngest female executive producer in primetime television. What was that?
To be honest, it was fabulous because, you know, being on Clarissa or being an actor in general, all I knew was being an actor, you know, for hire before that. And so there wasn't with Clarissa, that's what I was doing. But also, you know, as you play a character for many years, you take on that character and you protect that character and you want what's best for that character. And you might say something like, I don't think the character would say that, or I don't think she'd wear that, or I don't think she'd do that. But, you know, on Clarissa, they would trust me with that a little bit, but I didn't really do that. I always felt like it's their job to write it. It's my job to play it. So I would pretty much always do as scripted. I don't go off script. I don't improvise. I pretty much stick to, in fact, if I'm asked to do that, it terrifies me. I stick to the script and I make it work and I come up with a reason why it works. And, which is kind of rare, I think, in this industry. It seems like a lot of people want to make it their own and it makes sense to me, but it's just not something I ever did. I always felt like if they wrote it, there's a reason and I got to find that reason and play it. And then when Sabrina came along, yeah, I got to be the boss. And my mom was the real boss, though. Like I was second fiddle to my mom for sure, because she was the one hiring and firing, choosing the. But if I said, I want to meet the Violent Femmes, or I want Blondie on the show. Blondie was on the show. Violent Femmes were on the show. I had a crush on one of the monkeys. Davy Jones came on the show. You know, it was like whatever kind of I wanted to manifest the Sabrina movies every year. I didn't want to do Sabrina movies in the summer, but ABC had bought these movies from us and my mom had the job of convincing me to be in these movies. And so she found out I really wanted to remake the movie Roman Holiday, which Audrey Hepburn had starred in. Okay. So she did a witch version. She hired a writer to write a witch version, said, hey, you want to go to Italy and shoot this movie? And I was like, yeah, I do. She's like, we'll bring your boyfriend. We'll bring your hair and makeup team. We'll, you know, and then the next year I was like, I don't want to do another one. I don't want to do another one. She told the network she wants to, she really wants to learn to scuba dive and go to Australia. Okay. So we did Sabrina Down Under. So I spent my summer in Australia learning to scuba dive. You know, it was like, so I got to bring my friends along for the ride, which is always my favorite part. My favorite part of producing is being able to hire the people I like and I want to be around and that I think are talented. And I mean, hence you being in SantaCon, like me being able to direct SantaCon years ago, I got to put so many people that I thought were so incredibly talented, people I've wanted to work with or have worked with. Yeah, John Ratzenberger, who I adore.
We both love him.
Oh my gosh, Scott Grimes, who I just think is so incredibly talented. Yep. Barry Watson, who I'd never worked with before, but really looked forward to. And since then, I worked with him like 3 times now. You know, I just feel like that's the power of being the executive producer, is like getting to work with the people you love, getting a little creative influence, having people take your voice seriously. And I got that on Sabrina. I got that at 20 years old. And that show afforded me to buy my first house at 21. And that was, for me, so golden growing up the way I grew up. I feel like I held on to that. I know how special that was. I know how blessed I am to have had those opportunities. But, you know, and a lot of that comes with executive producing, but I wouldn't have executive produced without my mom. Like, I know it's really, you know, the show wouldn't have, I don't think, gotten sold without me, but it would never have happened without her. So it's, you know, we really, and, you know, with all this Me Too stuff that's been going on and whatnot, when people ask me about it, I have to honestly say it hasn't happened to me. I think because my mom was always, even though she was gone for those few years there, she was always there.
Your
and
mama
she was
was a
always, and
boss.
because she was my producer. Oh, totally.
So that wouldn't
they called her the
down.
Dragon Lady.
Yeah.
Even on Clarissa, they called her the Dragon Lady. She wouldn't let them on Clarissa. She was like, you're not plucking her eyebrows. You're not putting makeup on her. She's not going to wear mascara. You're going to, like, she is a little girl and she's going to look like a little girl, you know? And so she was, even though she wasn't a producer on Clarissa, she was like, she is my mom. And she is like, and of course they call her the Dragon Lady, or you can call her a stage mother or all this other stuff. But her job is to protect me first and foremost.
I call it.
Yeah. So then, you know, so then I didn't have to run into all the other issues that other people have to, like feeling like, should I, you know, join the casting couch, or should I, you know, all these other things. I had my mom there to protect me.
I got a taste of what you did for much longer. And the reason why was because, like I said, technically Family Matters wasn't my show. So every time there came an opportunity for me to do something, I had to unfortunately consider whether or not it was going to piss off my adult cast members. And so I kind of always grew up taking a little bit less than what I may have deserved at the time, because I had the kind of adult cast members who would make for a contentious set and maybe even scuttle the entire ship and not realize that they had ruined something good for everybody. So when I got an opportunity, I was asked, Jaleel, do you want to direct? And I literally was like, no, I would never direct, because if you let this person or that person direct, those would just be harder weeks for all of us. And so what I did do, though, because I have a passion for alts and jokes, is I fell in love with writing. And so I got a chance to have New Edition on the show and Larry Johnson on the show. Those were my episodes. Like, I wrote those episodes. And even still, I wrote an episode and another adult cast member decided they wanted to write. And they turned in an 84-page, 30-minute script that everybody that everybody had to fix. So
that's like 3 episodes.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it was like, yeah, here's my episode. You guys fix it, but make sure I get the credit. And so it was like, when you're dealing with those kind of politics, that's why it's like, I kind of actually envied you when you came along, and you may not have known that, where I was just like, yo, man, who is this girl that I'm the lead in for? And she got way more stuff than me. She's like, she's running the ship, man. And I'm like, I got a kowtow. I'm lucky if I even get a freaking parking space that I want with the guys that I'm working with. So.
Oh my gosh. Oh, well, thanks for saying that. I appreciate that.
You just never knew that.
It was recognized.
Yeah, no, it was very recognized. I mean, everybody knew that Melissa and her mom, like, they were really the boss. Like, I had 4 bosses and adult cast members that felt some kind of way. And when you're 16, 17, 18 years old, I remember a very specific moment, even as a matter of fact. I had a bunch of tests at school at UCLA, and it was just, you know, obviously studying in college is going to be different than studying in grade school and acting. And they would frequently try to shoot the adults out early in the morning to get them off just for ego's sake. Yeah. Just for ego's sake. Yeah. And I remember I was like, yo, like, I got a study group I got to get to. Why am I hanging around so you can shoot out them? And I got to stay here until 5 o'clock and start shooting at 5 o'clock until 9 o'clock. I got a study group I got to do. Well, you know, it's just the way it worked out today. You know, we'll work on it, And I remember in this one moment, I was like, you know what? No, I'm not taking this. And I went to our producer, our line producer at the time. And I said, Miles, if you can't shoot me right now, then you'll shoot me tomorrow. And he's like, what are you talking about? He said, if you can't shoot me right now, you're going to shoot me tomorrow. And I went and I got in my car and I started driving off the lot. And I look back and I see this chubby guy chasing my car towards the gate, chasing me. And I was like, and at this point, it's almost intoxicating what I've done and what I'm about to set off. And he catches up to my car. Miles catches up to my car. He goes, Jaleel, please, okay, we're going to shoot you right now. Just come back. And I'm like, really? Right now, we're going to shoot you. I'm like, okay. And I come back to the set and it's weird. It's like crew, people, everybody's just kind of quiet. And the adults, the actors, they don't even want to really kind of be around me. And I'm like, whatever. I had to get to this study group. They basically kind of used to let me sneak into athletic study group at UCLA. So the athletes always got better stuff for the tests. So if you could study with the athletes, you had all this stuff. So as long as I got a chance to study with the basketball players, I was acing tests. And I was like, I was not awesome. Missing this so that the mother on our show could be like, I got home and beat traffic. And it was like, that was the first day for me where I felt power. And then that was that one moment. But then I go on to become an adult actor. And then I discover that adults are playing these games all the time with each other on way pettier and higher levels. Who's got the bigger dressing room? Who's going to do coverage? Who's going to stand in for coverage and stuff like that? And it was like, I noticed we both did another show, Dancing with the Stars. And you said Dancing with the Stars spooked you. And I felt like, for me, Dancing with the Stars was when I became a full-fledged adult in the business. Like, I was an adult, but I wasn't an adult until I survived Dancing with the Stars. So I want to know your opinion about that.
I thought that was going to happen. You know, I feel like I'm the only person that didn't enjoy that experience. I loved to dance. When I was a kid, like you were saying, you wanted to do sports instead of auditioning. Yeah. I wanted to dance. I actually was teaching on Saturdays at 10 years old so that I could afford point classes on Monday. So I could go do ballet on Monday. And I would dance like 6 days a week. I figured out that if I could student teach for the little kids on Saturdays, that they would let me have free ballet classes on Monday. So
that's gangster.
I was, so anyway, so I love to dance. So when Dancing with Stars came about, I think it was the first season they asked me to do it. And I was like, nah, no, I was going to do it, but I was pregnant. And so I couldn't. And so I was pregnant for like 2 seasons. Yeah. I was pregnant for 2. Actually, I was in a deal with Fox too, but they didn't know I was pregnant. But 2 seasons went by and I was pregnant. And then they didn't ask me and they said they weren't going to, because I was like, I'm not pregnant anymore. I can do the next season. And they were like, no, you have too much experience. I'm like, I danced till I was like 12 at a local studio. What do you mean I had to? So then years went by and they asked me season 9 and I was like, I wasn't going to do it out of holding a grudge. Like, I'm not going to do it now. It's too late. But Soleil, our friend Soleil Moonfry, convinced me. She said, you know what? You've always been seen as a little girl, as very vanilla, the girl next door. This is your chance to be sexy. This is your chance to break out and do something different. And so I did it. But the problem is I was put with a partner who is very traditional. You know, if you do the waltz, it's the waltz and you're wearing white. And everything was still very vanilla for me, still very girl next door. Nothing was out of the box. Nothing was different. We had a cast of 16, so it was hard to make your mark and kind of take over any sort of voting, whatever. And I didn't think the judges would bother me, but when they pick on you, when you get it right, like I got the very first dance I did, I was so proud. I've never been so happy and so proud of myself. I made it through without embarrassing myself. I didn't miss a step. It might have been the most graceful thing or whatever, but I did it. I freaking did it, right? I didn't pee my pants in front of the audience. I didn't fall. I didn't miss a step. Like, I was so proud of myself and I'm jumping up and down. And then you walk over to the judges and they're like, eh. And all of a sudden, because I didn't think they were going to have any effect on me. I went from like cloud 9 to like hell so quickly. I fell so quickly and I was like, that sucked. Like, what just happened there? And I wanted to work hard and really work hard. Like, I had left my children behind for the first time since I'd had my 2 little ones. My first 2 kids were really small and I left them on the East Coast and went out there for 10 weeks to win this thing. Right. And I went out there and I was ready to win it. And it seems like my partner was more into music at the time, didn't really want to practice. I was ready for like the late nights, being up all night. I had called Capizio and gotten every kind of like blister protector. I had Epsom salts ready. I was like ready for sore blister. Like, let's do this thing. I'm going to bleed. I'm going to be tired. I'm going to be miserable, but I'm going to be like, I was ready. And he was like, we'd rehearse like 2 hours a day. And I was like, oh, okay. So it wasn't what I expected. It wasn't the experience, but I will say that one thing that changed for me was it's when I got my own name. It's when I became Melissa. Before that, on the street, it was always, hey, Clarissa. Oh, Sabrina. Oh, Clarissa. Oh, Sabrina. And all of a sudden it was Melissa. And
how that made you feel?
I became like, my name became more of a household name as opposed to a character. So it definitely served a great purpose. I didn't get to do all the dancing I wanted to do. I didn't get to bleed, but I tried. And you know, it was a little bit of a letdown, and I would love to go back and just try to enjoy the experience more, but I got too wrapped up in it all.
Right. I went to dance too. I'm an athlete at heart, for anybody who really knows me. And I was definitely reticent doing the show. But when I agreed to do the show, I was like, all right, I'm taking it seriously, just like you. I'm competitive. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah. I thought I was competitive until that. Maybe I'm really not. I don't know.
No, it was what it is again, is the show is very heavily produced for people have to understand.
Very heavily.
It's very heavily produced.
Yes.
So, you know, scores and remarks are not necessarily a reflection of the performance that you just saw. They are.
But also, I found there was so much more time put into, can you say that again? Or can you come over here? We're going to dress you up in an outfit and take you to this restaurant and film a sequence here.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get to practice today.
Yep.
Even though you only have 2 days to learn the dance. And I was like, what? More production moment. And I was like, I want to dance.
Yeah. So I think we have to define that for people, what that means, heavily produced. Is the network is much more concerned about the package that they film that airs before you dance than they are you actually being ready to dance.
And you only have 6 days,
exactly.
really.
And so, and they literally hold up your music too, because it was my strategy to stay one dance ahead per week.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to do that too.
Right.
My partner wouldn't.
And they wouldn't know. Yeah. They wouldn't. So the same thing. They won't
even give you the music.
They wouldn't even give you the music. They held my music back on purpose because they feel like it's good TV for you to be on edge, nervous, and maybe not even really all that prepared. And
they're trying to cause strife between you and your partner, or you and the other contestants, or somebody that might be in the audience, or, you know, that kind of thing.
So that...
Yeah, the produced moments were really what drove me nuts.
I wasn't there for drama. My attitude was like, look, I played Steve Urkel. If I could just get through my dances without tripping and falling and with any kind of grace, I think you might get some ratings from that. I think and they're like, nah, we not interested in that. We actually want to see you slip and slide, and will you wear the suspenders? So that was
oh no.
Yes. Oh man, don't get me wrong. So it was like, I just learning how to handle.
Well, it's funny. Wait, did you do that? Did you wear the suspenders or do a dance that was? I didn't
wear them damn suspenders on there because I knew if I did it that would be the only clip that they showed. It was like even.
Well, let me ask you, because that's really funny you say that, because they came to us one Sunday, because of course, you know, Monday you do the dance, Tuesday you get judged, and that's the day you're allowed to start practicing again for the next. So they came to us on a Sunday night and they said, we want your song to be Abracadabra. And my partner was like, absolutely not. He turned to me, he's like, don't you want to get away from the Sabrina thing? Don't you want to get away from the witch thing? Don't you want to? And I was like, yeah, you're right. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to do what Soleil said, you know, be more sexy, be more, more Melissa, and less
show your
of my
Janet Jackson
characters.
belly button. There you go.
But now I regret, I know, right? But now I regret it. I actually wish I had done that, because it would have been a really cool dance. It's a great song. And it probably would have gotten the fans a little more like, I love this. Like,
you know what?
I wish I had done it.
I did a Stefan tribute, but I was not going to let them. We were amongst sexy people, dude. Like Val and Max and them, dude.
Yeah.
These sexy people. Yeah. You're not gonna clown me up in front of these people. And it was like, even when Alfonso Ribeiro agreed to do the Carlton, you know, Alfonso's a good dancer and he is a talented dude in a lot of, like, I don't even know if he understands that I know how talented he is. Like, Alfonso, you were a dancer on Broadway before any of this BS, right? And anytime they talk about him being on Dancing with the Stars, or they show a clip of him being on Dancing with the Stars, they never show his best dances that ultimately won him the show. They only show him doing the Carlton. And it's such a trite thing. It's like, look, it's cool.
Which is now my son does it with his Fortnite.
There you go. You see, so I'm like, you know, it's and he don't get no money from that either. So he's not mad happy about that.
No, I know. Yeah.
But so it's like, you know, if I don't mind ever leaning into the legacy. And you have to lean into the legacy. You have to do it for your own sanity. You really do. But I don't ever like taking it to a cheeky place where I know now you're going to disregard all the effort that we just put into this work that we've been doing for 7 and 8 and 9 weeks. You want it to be sexy. You were there to bleed. You earned the right for people to say, Melissa did a great job tonight. And I enjoyed watching her. Not Clarissa, not Sabrina did a great job, but Melissa trained this week all these hours and look at the performance that she gave. And it's literally a choice to produce the show in such a way to say, nah, we're not going to celebrate that. We think we can get more ratings by just creating some acrimony. Like, whoa, that's a tough thing to accept. And it's a tougher thing to handle with grace. And that's what I mean, where I'm like,
well, it's funny.
I handled it with grace by the end.
I wanted to have so much fun doing it, and that's what I thought I was going into it for, but I don't think I realized how badly I wanted to be a dancer, that to have it, to be not feel like I was successful at that in the way that I had always dreamed I would be when I was a little girl. Like, there's one thing to be like, I'm going to be a ballerina when I'm big, and then not be able to do a waltz gracefully. You're like, wait, I'm actually a better Latin dancer than I can do the Charleston. Maybe I'm a tap dancer. Like, and trying to figure that out and be like, oh, like my childhood dreams were crushed in that moment. You know, it was like, eh. But it's funny you say, like, lean into the legacy. What's so funny, just not to segue away from Dance with Stars, but to talk about Sabrina for a second. You know, that whole witch culture and stuff. It's so funny because my co-stars, like especially Caroline Ray, really took to the witch culture. Really still talk about the witchy aspect and constantly bringing up the fact that we're witches. And I've never once thought about the witch culture of the show. It was always a TV show. I was playing, it was more magic than it was witchcraft. And you know, in the beginning, I maybe read some witch books and people give me gifts that were witches, but it was a lot of bewitched stuff and stuff like that. And I looked into witch culture and I learned why they use broomsticks and why they say a woman flies off the handle. And you can look that up yourself.
Okay.
But you can imagine what witches actually use broomsticks for. I mean, the potions that had to get into certain membranes and stuff like that. So I looked up stuff like that. But like, I never really got into the witch culture. And it's so funny because when I go out to these Comic-Cons and stuff and I meet fans, they want to hear witchy things. And I kind of wish I had held on to that. Like I noticed the new cast of the new Sabrina on Netflix. They're really like talking about witchcraft stuff. They're talking about, you know, their familiars, or they're talking pets and the difference between the wizards and the witches. And I'm like, I never really got into that. And I kind of wish I had now. But to me, it was a job. I did my job and then I went out at night and partied. Yeah, because I wanted to go dancing with my friends. I don't think it wasn't about the culture to me.
I don't think you had to look at it that way. I mean, the 90s and the early 2000s just tonally were very different from now. Now you have to stay true to a level of authenticity that will be scrutinized by an internet crowd that is literally just scouring over every detail. So, so if you say Sabrina the Teenage Witch for this generation is like, all right, what you about to tell me about witch culture? You see what I'm saying? And it's like, and we're going to make sure that you're on point about every aspect of witch culture. Nah, man, we were in the 90s and early 2000s. Our job was to sell a vibe. Our job was to sell a chemistry, you know what I'm saying, between your co-stars. Does she really like him? Do you guys really like each other in real life? You know, that's the kind of stuff that people really cared about.
Well, and, you know, and they always say like actors, like comedic actors, you have to really believe the stuff to even sell the joke. Like you have to really deliver. You can't just breeze over it. It really has to be solid and from a real place. And it's funny because, you know, doing these TV shows, like you have to, it's all about it's about the character. It's about the character connections. It's about the character development and how your character develops and how it relates to other characters. Not necessarily about whatever the blanket of the show. So for my show, it was witchcraft, magic, whatever. But it was really about her relationship with her aunts and her, you know, and her relationship with her friends and the boy that she liked. And it was really about those dynamics more so than it was ever really about, even though the witchcraft and the magic made it, was the fun element was infused with this great thing where we could have some fun and really change it up. But it wasn't really, for me, it was, you know, it was more about playing the character and who is this girl and why is she so scared or sad or hurt or trying to fix things or, you know, feels like she doesn't fit in.
I think you and I both share that. I'm realizing now that for both of us, it was an out-of-body experience. The character was a third person to us. We weren't living in the skin of our character. We were embodying the character at work, and we were leaving our character at work and then going to be Jaleel
at work
and then going to be Melissa. And it's like, I think that's one of the things that make you so normal and relatable. You know, I mean, when we went to the baseball game and I'm seeing you there with your family behind me or whatever. And I was like, she's a real kickback girl. Like, she just really wanted a hot dog and peanuts. And it's just, you know, watch the ball. I mean, your Yankee plug was nice. Your Yankee plug was nice. I remember that game that we went to.
It's a benefit of being a New Yorker sometimes. They really, you know, the Yankees and the Giants really take care of you.
I have to say this, though. You were quite the partier. like you note when you worked with Britney Spears on Drive Me Crazy that you sneaked her away and you guys went out. So between you and Britney, who's drinking who under the table?
Oh no, we never really drank together. I'm not a big drinker. I am a partier, which means to me just being social, getting out. I'm always a planner. I plan everything. I'm planning a girls trip right now, a COVID friendly girls trip, I should say. And we're, my friends always say that if I'm not around, nothing happens. I'm the one that's constantly like, when are we getting together? What are we doing? My girlfriends and my relationships with girls are really, really important to me. Making time for people. I always say like you don't, what is it? You don't find the time, you make the time. So yes. Like it's not like I'll call you when I find the time. It's like, I'm going to make the time to call you. I'm going to make the time to connect. We're going to go to lunch. We're going to have dinner. And I'm also the more the merrier kind of person. And maybe that's because I come from a family of 8 that it's always like, yeah, everybody come, we have to be able to fit everybody. Let's make this work. So, I think that in that way, I was always very much like, and I love to dance and I love to be social. So living in LA, it was like, there was a different the promoters that would let you in the door. I loved the aspect of being a celebrity in the fact that like you'd go to these clubs and if you knew the promoter, you got in, and it just felt really special, to go to a VIP table. I feel like we went to the
same spot. You were probably like a queen at Joseph's and places like that. Or
oh yeah, Joseph's. That's what it was called. I can never remember it.
Come on, man.
Joseph's like I said, and like Las Palmas. And yeah, there were a bunch of those, and like I loved going out. And every night of the week, it was a different place, and I loved going out. But you better believe, when last call happened at 1:30, I'd have 1 gin and tonic. I'd hit. What'd you say?
H-Wood was another one that I loved. Did you ever go to H-Wood?
Oh yeah.
That was
I think so.
That was in the Kodak Center. It's the same Bootsy Bello guys now, and I love those cats now. But like,
oh yeah.
But it was when it was H-Wood though. It was popping.
Yeah, I loved going out dancing. I loved going and seeing familiar faces and kind of meeting up with people. I'd have 1 gin and tonic, and I had to go home by 1:30. I was out the door because even if there was an after party or something happening, because at 6 a.m. I had to be at work. So it was like, all right, I know I can have 1 gin and tonic, and if I get 5 hours of sleep, I'm good. So it was that kind of, very responsible, careful. I wasn't a big partier, never got into drugs. Honestly, in my life, I've only seen one person ever do cocaine. So like, I was very, kind of a controlled behavior in a way, and, overthought everything. And I always knew that there was going to be 100. Yeah, there's 100 people watching you on set, want to know that you know your lines, hitting your marks, and have that energy that you need to give. So I better freaking know my stuff, or I'm going to be embarrassed as hell tomorrow. So, and talked about in town, and then, and then as soon as that word starts to spread, insurance doesn't cover you. And, I learned all the horror stories, and I wanted to avoid all that. So I very much was controlled behavior. But I did see that Britney looked a little, she came to the set, and she was on Sabrina, and I asked her to go to lunch with us, and she couldn't. And she looked so downtrodden with all these people around her telling, oh, no, you can't. You have to do this, and you have to do that. And you have to go to work out, and then you have to meet with Pepsi, and you have to go to, it was all this stuff that she had to do. And she was 17. And so I snuck her out of her hotel and took her out dancing one night. But I also made the mistake of leaving her there because
you left Britney Spears
I left her
at
with
the club?
The promoter was like, I'll get her, because I was like, I got to go home. I got to go to work tomorrow. Yeah, and the promoter, she was in this table with all these people, and the promoter was like, don't worry, we'll get her home.
Yeah,
I was
don't
like, okay.
worry.
But I lied to her bodyguard, and so I felt bad. So, I don't think she wasn't drinking or anything. She was just having fun. She was just like letting loose for the first time, like able to be around people her own age and enjoy herself for a second.
I knew her bodyguard.
She was dragged from place to place.
Yeah, I knew her.
Big Rob?
Yeah, I knew her bodyguard. Yeah, I knew Big Rob. And I ran into her at Joseph's one time, and I was actually too shy because he was like, yo, like, what y'all should kick it. And I was too shy to step to her. And I just kind of let it.
Well, she was kind of a shy, believe it or not. Like, she's a little shy too.
Yeah,
she
was shy too. I caught that. Yeah, no, I caught that. Like,
yeah, she's not super out there like, oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I'm like that, but she's not, she's, as far as I remember, I haven't seen her in decades, but, but yeah, so it might, and I know I wrote a lot about, like, in my book, Melissa Explains It All, I wrote a lot about, going out and partying and some of my wild days, but that was all encapsulated in a few years. I just was a little late to it. When kids are partying in college, I was partying in my early 20s.
Right.
When I finally hit LA, when I had my own house and could have parties, I just loved to entertain. Like, we're we're looking to move right now, and I'm just trying to find a house big enough to have parties. I just want to have parties. I just want people to come over. I want to dance. I want to talk all night. I just,
Isn't
that's
it
my
funny
thing.
how people treat your house, though, when you invite more than 50 people to your crib? Right? And I'm like, you go into your guest bathroom, you're like these animals. How dare they call themselves my friends? I'm saying the number is 50. I figured it out too. Once it gets over 50, they literally turn your house into a carnival porta potty. Like it's
a frat house.
Yeah, you have to hire somebody to wipe the piss off of toilets. And you know these people. You know these people.
See, you have a little girl. I got boys, by the way. I'm wiping piss off the wall all the time. My boys can't aim for crap. But but luckily maybe coronavirus is good for that because it keeps us under 50, right?
Well, it does that. Listen, I wanted to give you props because I felt like you were a very strategic and good partier, and people need to know, hey, look, Melissa Joan Hart partied with the best of them. I'm talking NSYNC, Britney Spears, all of them. She didn't do any drugs. She got to work at 6 a.m.
I tried to break into Michael Jordan's suite at the Kentucky Derby once, but that didn't work.
Michael would have partied with you.
He's got Michael Jordan at the Derby. His bodyguards did not want to let me in. I was going in to party with Mike Strahan. I was going in with Strahan, and I was like knocking on the door. I didn't know it was Jordan's suite, but I'm like that, and the bodyguards were like, "Who? What?" And they disappear for a while, and then they're like, "Come back out." They're like, "Nah, you can't." I was like, "Okay, I don't know what's going on, but I just know Strahan's in here, and he told me to come down." And they're like, "Nah, no, you should go." And like they wouldn't let me in. I was like, "Damn it!" Then I found out it was Jordan's. I was like, "I should have partied with them."
You know what's so funny though about celebrity is, no matter how big you get as a celebrity, you still ultimately come up against another celebrity wall at some point that says, I'm sorry, who are you? You're not on the list.
I got that sometimes with Britney, even because of her team and her people around her. And when it wasn't Big Rob as her bodyguard or her aunt wasn't her assistant, all of a sudden it was like, Brit, and she didn't see me. So it was like, and they're like, they just shoved past you. You're like, oh, okay, never mind. I'll see you later.
And it was so funny because I maybe you can identify with this, but even back in my nightclub days, it's like I would tell my friends too. I'd be like, look, this is how we gonna do this. We're gonna pull up to the front, but if this dude flinches, I gotta bounce. And it's like, well, just give it a second and say, no, you don't understand, okay? If I'm standing out there, everybody's looking at me, you know what I'm saying? Now you get into the smartphone age, people get their phones out, they're judging how long it's going to take for us to get in. So look, if the plug is going to play games, they know who we are, okay? They don't have to be a fan. Maybe they didn't like the show. Maybe they wanted to watch something else on another network. But this dude knows who I am. So this dude, and one of the things that you did to maximize your chances of getting in is you had to be tight with your crew. So you couldn't be pulling up with 8, 9, 10 people at a strange club. It's like, okay, look, it's going to be me, you, all right, her. Okay, I got 4. I think I can do 4.
You got to have some girls. You got to have some girls, right?
Got to have some girls.
No, there was one time in New York. See, the difference between New York and LA. LA, they know their celebrities. They know their list. They know they'll spot you and they'll pull you in a lot of the time. New York, I'll never forget there was one time. People are always like, oh, why don't you use your name? I'm like, doesn't always work, dude. It was early days, maybe early Sabrina, but I'm trying to get into a nightclub in New York. And I'm there with my mom. I always went out with my mom. My mom loves to party. So my mom and my stepdad, I don't know if you ever met my stepdad, but he's a character. He's like a Bronx boy, loud, just obnoxious. And so we're there and I'm like, Melissa Joan Hart. And they're like, who? No, get in line. Get in line. I was like, oh, my stepdad goes up. He's in a suit and he goes, hi, I'm with CAA. He pretends to be an agent. This is my client. And they let him in. They didn't let me in. I was so mad. He's such a liar. And so I was like, never again. I'm not doing that again.
I love it. Listen, I'm going to let you go soon, but I do want to talk to you before you leave a little bit about directing, because it's just it's something that I admire that you do. You're good at it. I've watched you get better. I'm so disappointed that I wasn't on the Big Show episode that you directed. For people who don't know, I'm on a show called The Big Show on Netflix, and Melissa was one of our directors. And but she did not direct the episode that I was in, and that's just the way it happens in rotation. But I had show texting me throughout the week, and I would get pictures and see that you were there. But ultimately, other than just knowing that you need to grow and you need to expand as a female director, what obstacles did you have to overcome coming from a place of child stardom, coming from a place of being a woman? to gain your confidence as a director? Because I felt like even when you were doing the SantaCon, you were still getting your sea legs then.
Well, the SantaCon was my first movie. I had directed myself on TV shows. I directed Melissa and Joey. I directed a bunch of Sabrina. But that's when you're working with a crew you know really well.
Yeah.
You know exactly who the prop guy is to call in to help you with this, or you know who the camera guy is to say this to, or, you know, when you know everybody's names, such an easier job. When you know what their job is and what their and how good they are at their job, then you know who to lean on. You know, and when you have a show rolling, it's like a train. It just keeps moving, and the director helps in ways, but really that show can go, you know, everyone will help direct that show if that's the case.
Exactly.
So SantaCon was my first time doing a movie. So the prep I had to do for that and the nerves I had on that. And I'm also on camera for a lot of it. You know, you and I played romantic love interests in that one. Side note, I always tell people the hottest I've ever been in my life physically, like heat coming off my body, was in that apartment in Bridgeport, Connecticut in July. Yes. In leather pants. We had blacked out the windows to make it look like night. There was no AC. We're on a 3rd floor. You and I are on a couch, snuggled up together, pretending to sleep by a fire. And I'm in like leather pants and a sweater, and we're just like wrapped up in each other. It was, I think it was about 110 degrees. And it's like, I mean, even just stepping outside and taking off the leather pants would have like alleviated about 20 degrees of that. But when I remember being the hottest in my life, it was with you on that couch, snuggled up, pretending to sleep.
That is hilarious.
Just so you know.
Because you're such a pro, I wouldn't have known it. I mean, I think both of us are taught to endure. So I'm like, I don't even have a recollection as that as being the hottest moment for me on any set. I'm like, if it gets bad, like, it's just going to get bad.
Oh, it was so bad. And we had to like get up and put ice packs on our every take. We'd have to get our makeup fixed and like ice packs around our neck, and then we give them to the crew before we roll. But I think the thing with us too is being pros, we know the faster we get it done, the faster we're out of this situation. So let's just do it. Let's just do it. Let's just get it done. Let's do 3 takes in a row and be done. But yeah, no, that was my first time really directing. And I think I shot 6 out of the 18 days I was in the actual movie, which I had been used to being in front of the camera. But it's so much nicer to be behind the camera and not have to be in front of the camera too, figuring out times for makeup and learning lines as well as shot lists. But I had the most amazing experience in that movie. Not only did I feel like we packed it with some super talent. Like one of the biggest jobs of the director is performance. And if you hire the right actors, you don't have to work. That's like, check that off the list. I don't have to worry about you and Scott and Barry and everybody that was so amazing in that movie. Because everybody's bringing it, you know, you're not working on performance. And then the other thing was like, you know, figuring out angles, working with the crew, learning names. You know, there's so many different elements to it. And now I feel like I'm finally getting traction. And there's these great programs put into place for women and people of color right now to get more jobs in directing. And then if we do a good job, hopefully we hold on to those jobs. So we're getting these opportunities now, and I'm just hoping I'm able to prove myself. But I feel like also coming from a place of, first of all, growing up on set, like no better film experience. There's a difference between someone who went to film school and someone who grew up on set. And they both have their benefits, but for people that grew up on set, it's just a natural. This is like, I would do craft service just to stay on a set, you know? So there's that, but then there's also working as an actor, you know what directors you've liked, how they talk to you, and you've seen other actors take direction from directors, and you know what not to say, you know what works, what might not work. You know how to kind of
tell me something what
talk
not to
to an
say.
actor in some shorthand. Okay, so I did make the mistake on the set of Young Sheldon. I was directing Young Sheldon, which I was so nervous about. Like those writers are so great from Big Bang, and you know, it's just it's a Chuck Lorre show and whatnot. So you know, I wanted to be really careful. But one time, an actor said the wrong line, so we kept rolling, and I yelled out, or I said, "Can you give it to me again?" Or I said the line out. I said, "Can you say it this way?" And I read the line to him, and he said, "Well, what did I say?" And I just went, "Not that." And then I was like, oh, crap. Like, luckily he didn't get offended by that, but I really he shouldn't have said that to this amazing actor who I love. And then the crew starts laughing, and then we're laughing at him. I was like, oh, my God, is he going to kill me? Is he going to walk off set? Like, what is, you know, so don't ever say that to an actor, right? Like, unless you have a really good rapport with them, of course. But yeah, I definitely kind of got a little too witty with him in front of everybody, and kind of while the cameras are rolling. But, there's some actors need to be handled with kid gloves, and some actors you can just shorthand it. You can kind of wink at them and they know to do it again and make it better. I like to say that a lot too. Like, let's just do it again and do it better.
That's a good one.
Because sometimes people just make it better.
No, because you have to come up with these things that you say that are encouraging and that are not demanding. And like, even when we were kids, sometimes people would cross the line and physically put you on your mark. And, here, you're going to stand here, right? So it's like, in this day and age, you can't, as a director, put your hands on anybody to get them to stand someplace. You have to use your words.
No.
Right? That's like a huge, Did
you ever work with Chuck Vinson? Was Chuck Vinson anyone you ever had
I did not work with Chuck Vinson, but I have literally seen his name on call sheets before, though.
Yeah, he did a lot of Clarissa. I think he did some Cosby and stuff. We would do so many takes, but he would always say cannon take. And, at Nickelodeon, it was like bigger, more energy. And then he would finally be like, all right, this is the cannon take. Like, you're shooting out of a cannon. I want the biggest energy. I'm like, I am so exhausted from all this energy. So like, but coming up with things like that, sometimes you need to center. Like, I worked with a cast last year, young cast. They were getting really dark with the material. I'm like, this is a light, fun kids romantic comedy. Like, let's lighten it up. So I made them do exercises, or we prayed as a group before our run through, just to bring it together and calm everybody down and center it and be like, guys, the prayer was about like, just help us bring a smile to someone who needs it today. Help us stay focused for this while. Help us, we're just bringing comedy, not rocket surgery. My favorite saying. But let's just focus on what we have to do and then go home to our families that are waiting for us at home. And that's that really helped them focus and like bring it together. Before that, it was like kind of a train wreck. Everything was like going in different directions. Right. And then lightening things up, helping these kids like find the comedy in things in bickering, like comic bickering seemed to be really difficult for them. They thought bickering should be angry and mad and bringing it down. And I was like, no, it can be fun. I said, I need you guys to go home and watch my show, Melissa and Joey, because Joey Lawrence and I, all we do is bicker in a really fun, light,
and it's just a game of timing and piggybacking each other's lines. That's all.
Yeah, it's like ping pong, and it's like, and it's supposed to be fun and light, and and they're like, but we're saying these awful things to each other. I'm like, but in a light way, let's lighten it up. So trying to help them understand that was a real challenge, and but I find it fun. It's challenging. It's scary to me. It's super scary. But when I accomplish it, when I finished Young Sheldon, or I did my first episode of Goldbergs, and I'm on a season 5 of a show with these actors that I'm not going to tell them what their character would do. I'm not going to find a part of the set that hasn't been used before. I'm just there. I was like, it took me 3 days to realize, what the hell am I doing here? What am I? Any of these people here could direct this. Why am I here? This newbie, this new person that's walking on the set that everybody thinks is just here for a publicity stunt. And I realized I'm there to bring new energy. I'm there to just like make this machine move. I'm there to help direct, to give, the camera should be over here. The actors, you guys be over here. You guys stand here and we'll do this and we'll do that and we'll be done. And they really appreciated my energy. And I have never felt a high like I did, except for maybe, taking a bow on Broadway. Then when I directed Goldbergs or when I directed Young Sheldon, I accomplished one of these, when I just finished a movie with Mario Lopez called Feliz Navidad that I just directed. We were the first first production up and back and done and wrapped during the time of COVID.
Props to you.
So we wrapped by July 2nd, I think it was, or June 28th, we wrapped our movie. And we did it safely, and we made a movie. And then Lifetime was like, let's do another one. So I started the next one, and then they're like, let's do another one. I produced that one. And so we have one I'm in called Dear Christmas, one with Mario called Feliz Navidad, and then one with Vanessa Lachey called Once Upon a Time in Main Street. And these are 3 movies coming out in Lifetime later this year. And I'm so proud to say that we got 3 movies done in the COVID time safely. And I got to direct this one with Mario. And Mario and I have worked together 3 times. We've done 2 other Christmas movies together. And we have a rapport and we have some fun. But he doesn't really want to listen to me. I'm like his annoying little sister. So, trying to slap him around, trying to get him to, my constant note to him was like, please don't be smarmy. Like, can you stop being smarmy? Like, you're supposed to be the widower who's like, doesn't want to date, but here you are seeing Annalyn McCord and be like, what's up, hot stuff? I'm like, can you not walk like that? Like, this is not Saved by the Bell. Like, let's not have some swagger through the hallway. You're the principal. So it was fun trying to like mess with him, and he's messing with me.
Listen, Mario is a proud Latino man. So you directed him? I already know. Choose your words carefully, Melissa.
Oh no, he loves it when I poke and prod. I make such fun of him, and I think he loves it because I think everybody else is always like Mario. You know, they all melt around
exactly.
him like, not me, baby. Nope.
I think the biggest thing that I admire in a director is a director that knows how to manage his takes or her takes based on who needs to elicit the biggest performance. I remember I did an episode of Castle, and they did all of the stars coverage first, but I had the most dialogue. And so when he turned the camera on me, he did like literally 16 takes going my direction in various coverages. And I had pretty much exhausted myself in their coverage. So
by the time you...
Yeah, I had done my best stuff off camera for
I can't
them.
stand that. Yeah.
And so Stana tells the French director, she was like, why didn't you shoot him first? And it's like, it's that moment where I'm like, because you the star, baby. And he wasn't thinking about my black ass right now. And so it's like,
no, I know. I try to always, especially when I'm doing other people's TV shows, I try to really take into consideration, like, who needs to ramp up?
Exactly.
Sometimes older actors need to ramp up, or someone doesn't have their lines yet. They're like, not yet. Like, I got to work into it. And other times people are like, I'm only doing this one, you know, they got a crying scene or something. It's like, let's get that.
Right.
Do you want, and a lot of time if there's a really sensitive scene, I'll ask people, do you want to go first or you want some time to, like, you know, so I think being an actor, we bring that as directors, like, that's something we've experienced. We can bring that
100%. Like, I totally see you just following in Penny Marshall's footsteps because you bring so much consideration to what the actor would want in these circumstances. And it just sucks to me that sometimes executives don't realize that. It was like, listen, this woman has been on a set since she was freaking 4 and 5 and 6 years old. She's going to have a greater understanding of what the actresses and actors around her that she has to direct want for themselves. And I mean, literally, the day after you left the Big Show on Netflix, they were all, oh, we love Melissa. We love Melissa. And I have to think about certain directors that were there that was like, yeah, she should have been there instead of that guy.
Well, it's funny because on that show, it was the first time I kind of had a chance because that was some of my crew from No Good Nick. So I had the chance to maybe direct the pilot. And it's my goal as a director is to direct pilots. Right. Because that's that's the key
to you get the money.
Television, right? Yeah, it's the money. That's the notoriety. That's like the highest you get as a television director. And so I was like I'm trying my goal. I don't think you can do this as an actor, but as a director, I can say in 3 years, I want to direct a pilot. And so that was going to fast track me. If I could do Big Show, that was going to put me up 2 years on my goal to direct a pilot. And they met with me. They liked me. They wanted me. They were like, we're not going to let you do the pilot, but we'll let you do a different one. And then of course, I do the very last episode. It's a huge episode. It's Halloween. I'm trying to get these kids out to go trick-or-treating. I have 200 background guests and background actors, and we're trying to get these kids out by 4:00 for some trick-or-treating. And we have like the biggest day of production, like the biggest load of shots and whatnot. And so I had a bullhorn I wanted to get done. But of course, as we're rocking it out, and Big Show, I taught him a really cool trick about how to clarify your words. He couldn't say something, and I did this trick where you put your finger in your mouth and you say it, and he was so blown away, he walked off the stage. He's like, oh my God, where have you been? How did I not know that? That's the most amazing trick. What the hell? How? And the producers turn to me and go, where have you been the whole time? I'm like, dude, I tried to get in early. And they're like, we know, we're sorry. But that was like a huge pat on the back, like that they like acknowledged that I knew my stuff, you know. And actually the biggest thing is not even when the showrunners or the actors, but when the old crotchety crew, like there have been times when I've been on a set and those camera operators or whatever, they're like, you know, they're looking at you like, who the hell's this bitch? Like this little girl coming in here thinking and then you throw some old terms at them. Like I want the dolly in the basement, or, you know, let's tilt right. And let's get a C-47 over here for that. You know, you just throw out some like old terminology or something that someone hasn't used in a long time. And they're like, oh, you know your shit. And you're like, yeah, I kind of, you know, been around a long time. I was there when it was film rolling. I've been there when it's taping. I've been there when not every camera is isolated and you have to record as a live TV show, even though there's no audience. Like I've seen it all. I've watched it. I studied Chuck Vinson when he was on, he directed Clarissa, and I like would look at his notes and see how he took his notes for a live, you know, we had to film Clarissa, even though there was no audience. We filmed it like it was a live show. we had
Right.
4 cameras, but only one could tape at a time. So it's
Okay.
jumping around. Like, did you get that shot? We had to shoot so many takes of that show. And I was trying to understand why. And so I learned on the job, and I just so I love every aspect of filmmaking, even if I don't necessarily understand lighting and filters.
Well, listen, I can listen to these stories out of you for another hour, but I know you've got boys to get back to, having you on the podcast.
I know my kids are about to bust in on me any minute.
Right.
They're like, Mom.
And they should, but having you on the podcast today, it really was just, I knew that people needed to hear the real you, the educated you, the person who's been in the business for so long that, your longevity just needs to be more celebrated. It means a lot to me, because it's like the only thing.
Well, thank you.
The only thing I have an issue with when it comes to the whole former child actor thing is we just keep getting lumped into groups of people who did it wrong. And there's so many more of us, yourself, Matt Shackman, so many other people who have
Danica McKellar,
exactly,
Candace Cameron, Sarah Michelle. There's so many more that were successful and were able to transition either to other lives or in their professional lives. And it's funny because you hear the horror stories, and those stories live on in infamy. And we for some reason everyone thinks story. That's a child star.
And what sucks about it though is I'm here to draw the common theme. And you know what the common theme is? And you said it way earlier, and I didn't want to interrupt you because you were in a flow, but the common thing is we all wanted to do it. You were age 4.
Yeah.
You said, Mom, they're saying people's names on Romper Room. I need to get down there. And that is a prodigy's observation and a prodigy's
and there's a lot of places in my career. Yeah. And I'm sure with you too, like everywhere in my career, I could talk about 3 or 4 different crossroads where I almost chose to do something else, but I came back to it. And I don't know if it's perseverance or just sticking it out. Like, I don't know if it's that I always necessarily wanted to be an actor, but I wanted to be a part of filmmaking or television making. And that and I wanted to be a working actor. I didn't want to be rich and famous. I wanted to be a working actor. So and to be honest, the most epic child star, I actually produced a movie called Child Star about Shirley Temple. She's my role model. She's my icon. Like, she was someone who was the most successful child star, the most successful movie star in the 30s during the Great Depression. She was the biggest box office draw, and she quit at 21 and went on to focus on family, to become a politician. She was the ambassador to Guam or Ghana? Guam. I can't remember. But she
it began with a G.
She had this other life. It began with a G, and it was far away. It was very far away. But she I think it might have been Ghana. But she was like this woman that I looked up to, that I was like, okay, she was super talented. She was amazing, but she also had other dreams that she wanted to live out, and that's okay too. Yeah. So, finding my dream and how those crossroads go for all of us, and what paths we take or don't take is interesting. And I love the questions you've brought today. I feel like I've talked about things I've never talked about before.
I told you would.
I appreciate that.
I told you would. That was, I have one last question though. I feel like we owe it to ourselves, and we do owe it to our fans to let them know what our real ambitions are at this point. Like, what's left for Melissa to accomplish at this point? I mean, technically you've done it all, but it's like, do you want to sit in the Oscar audience for something you directed? Do you want to, maybe it doesn't have anything to do with that. Maybe you want to be the ambassador to Guam. What is it that it's like? I just feel like you got to put things in the universe.
Like, what do I want to be when I grow up? I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I feel like I'm navigating it all the time. This directing thing I'm loving it. I'm loving that people are giving me a chance. I'm loving that these producers are these showrunners are trusting me with their material, that they like my sense of humor or the way I work with the actors or the energy I bring to set. And that has been, like I said, the biggest high I've had. And so I want to continue with that road. I do have a goal of wanting to direct some pilots. I think that would be a great family life for me, to be able to direct pilots between, February and April, and then take the rest of the year to be with my family and kind of be able to hyper focus. Or, I would love to be a film director. I would love to be a Penny Marshall, like you said, or a Sofia Coppola. you know, do one great movie, focus on one great movie a year. And really, I have no ambitions or any, I don't even think there's any chance of me ever winning an award or anything like that.
No, stop that.
But
See, I'm going to put a pause on you on that.
The idea.
No, stop that. Because I know, because people do that to us.
Maybe I don't care about it. I don't know. Like,
you got to put it in the universe if you want to.
I don't really, I mean, I think it would be, I know. I don't know if, did Penny Marshall ever win? Like, or Gary Marshall? Like, I feel like a lot of comedy directors and people that give us a lot of the stuff that we grow up with don't necessarily get notarized like that. Like, I feel like,
what's a show that you're a fan of that people wouldn't think that you were a fan of? Like, I love Ozark. I you know, it's a show that I love. I love Succession. I love Billions. You know, it's comedically, you know, I loved Veep. You know, I love things that are a lot more biting. You know, I was literally filming Family Matters as a young kid, and then coming in on Fridays and was like, "Yo, did you see Seinfeld last night? They killed it." You know, and Kramer got the whole Merv Griffin set, and it was in it. And people wouldn't imagine that this is what I was appreciating and this is what I was doing. So I'm like, I got to put it in the universe to let people know I like that. I can do that. I can do everything from dry comedy to slapstick. And I'm like, give me one couple of things that you even like where you're like, I can direct that. Well, that's like me
with directing. Like I've actually been really lucky. Last year, I think I'm one of the few directors that I know of that has been able to do multicam and single cam comedy shows.
Yeah, they don't let you switch.
So I was doing Goldberg's Young Sheldon, but I'm doing Netflix. I'm doing, you know, so one of my goals would be, I would love to direct Last Man Standing.
Okay.
I don't know why, like that one, or to be able to do one of the Chuck Lorre shows, but they have standing directors. So like Mom.
Oh, Allison would love you.
But like, honestly, like, but something like a Game of Thrones, like a big, or like a Supergirl, something like DC Comics. Like, I don't know if you know Eric Dean Stanton. I'm sure Eric probably did a few big shows, but he's like he's a director that I kind of follow, or Robbie Countryman. Like, I kind of follow along with their.
I know Eric and Robbie.
So Eric like did Supergirl, and we talk about it. He's like, you got to get on Supergirl. It's awesome. It was like his dream come true to do that. So then now he's in that DC family, right? So now he's getting to do all the big, and coming from Sabrina, I don't think people realize I have a lot of experience in special effects. Our special effects guy went on to do Game of Thrones and is a front title producer on Game of Thrones because of his special effects and what a big part it is of that show. But he was our guy on Sabrina. And so I learned a lot. I mean, it's definitely changed. It's gotten easier. But like, our special effects were so complicated on Sabrina that I could do something like a superhero, big, you know, kind of fun action show. And I think that would be really awesome to I would have loved to have done the new Sabrina, but now it's been canceled. But like, I don't think I would have wanted to be in that show, but I would have loved to have directed it.
I think it would have been cool if they had you as a director. But I love that you just put all of this in the universe, because guess what? It's going to happen.
So much.
It's going to happen.
Thanks.
Anyway, I want to let you run and go play with those boys and monitor what they've been looking at on Zoom. Their devices during Zoom school.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yep.
Just thank you for joining me. I'm serious.
Thank you. Look, hey, listen, you come back when games are going on again. You bring your little girl back, and we'll go to another Yankees game.
I love it, and we can do a Dodgers game too. You know, we do it on both coasts.
Oh yeah. All right, but then I have to hang out with Mario too. You know, he's always there. So
I love it. Melissa Joan Hart, everybody.
Love you, Jaleel.
Melissa Joan Hart.
She rocks. Bye.